Hey guys, it's Shannel from season 1 of Drag Race, and we've got all of our makeup set up here and we are ready to go. We're gonna recreate the Medusa look from season 1 with the boobs and the headdress that fell off and all that crazy stuff. So it's gonna be an amazing, amazing time today. We're gonna have a lot of fun and we're gonna learn some things. And so I'm gonna take you from this to this. All right, so we are ready to go. I got my headband on and everything is situated. The first part of my process always is to cover my eyebrows. A lot of queens use a glue stick, which is awesome. I used to use it myself. However, I find that when I sweat a lot, it tends to crack or to pull apart. So I use a prosthetic adhesive and I feel like it's a little bit stronger. It kind of has the consistency of like a Elmer's glue. So what I wanna do is I wanna go ahead and dip into there and I put a heavy amount of it on the brow, and I kind of wanna push the brow in an upward position, getting all of that glue as much as you possibly can inside the hairs. I then take a washcloth that's wet and I wipe off all of the edges, top and the bottom to it, top and bottom, and take a hairdryer on cool. Wipe off the extra edges of the glue. And again, it's kind of a tricky product, but when you kind of master it, it does make a difference. Glue is a little easier, but if you're someone that sweats a lot, like myself, this kind of tends to be a little bit of an easier product to avoid all of that. Before I do the other side, I'm gonna take a powder puff with my darker powder, because I always use 2 different powders, and I wanna powder over it, just to make sure that you really sealed in all of that glue really, really well. And start working on the other brow. All right, so now that we got the brows glued down and powdered, I want to put my foundation over them. And instead of rolling foundation on, I like to use my finger with the foundation. I use a foundation stick because I like to use the finger to get in there. Oh yeah, using a finger to get in there sometimes is a really good thing, isn't it? We're gonna put the foundation on over the brow, get it covered, and then we're gonna start to build all of the rest of the foundation on the rest of our face. You wanna use a really good heavy base foundation, preferably with a minimal amount of mineral oil so you don't end up getting like all greasy and nasty, especially if you're a stage performer and you're performing all the time. Then you wanna pick up your beauty blender, which is your best friend in the entire whole wide world, and literally start building your color. I use 3 different shades of foundation. So I start with the upper part of the face and the center parts of your face. So down the center of your nose, forehead, cheeks, upper lip, and chin are the lightest parts of your face. The darkest parts of your face are on the outside. So you want to use your darker foundation color towards the outermost parts of your face, and then keep everything light in the center. Then we're gonna pick up the lighter color with our other beauty blender. Like ghostly white, literally. It's horrible. The foundation colors I use are nowhere near what my natural skin tone is, which is okay because when you apply your powders, because I use 2 different powders, a lighter and a darker powder, it tends to warm it up and become more of what your natural, skin tone essentially should be per se. To cover all these lines in my forehead. God, I need some Botox. Get some of my darker color again, and obviously because I'm ghetto here, I'm running out of my color, so I'm scraping it out with the end of a makeup brush. Just so gross. Don't be afraid to pile that color on, no. Really, really, really get it in there. I'm gonna pick up my lighter color again for the chin. Now because you're using different foundations, you see lines obviously where the foundation colors kind of collide. So you can lightly take your beauty blender and stipple them kind of together a little bit to blend them out a little bit more. Now, because I don't have obviously any definition for cheekbones at all, I have to basically create it. And so again, before using my contours and my powders to do it, I go in with an even significantly darker foundation and I start to create hard lines. around the temples, because again, remember, the outsides of our face are our darker areas. So we want to apply that color and get that color in with all the depth towards the outside first. And then under the chin, because God knows, I would like one chin instead of three. And then the nose. I naturally have a bump in my nose, and the tip of my nose is thick, and I don't like it. So I want like stupid thin nose. Using the edges here, we're gonna do lines down. And I do them kind of into a V sort of motion. Now I go back in, and I lightly want to kind of feather this darker color now in with the lighter color. All right, and now I am ready to put some powder on. Powder a little bit on my upper lip first, my darker powder, and my lighter powder on just the lighter areas of the skin. Now, we're gonna start to actually contour. So I'm gonna grab my angle brush, and I'm gonna grab my non-shimmer bronzers. And now, because of where I put that line, I can actually start to build the color right over the top of it. And you always typically want to have your color darkest towards the hairline, or where your sideburn area would be, and then you want it to fade into going into softer towards the apple of the cheek. And I always like to keep a towel on my lap, because whenever I pick up my color, I always like to kind of brush it off or wipe it off a little bit on the towel before I actually apply it to the skin. However much contour you put on is really just truly dependent on how severe a look you like or how soft a look that you like. I guess I kind of go with something a little in between. I don't know. I've gone through different stages. Take a larger brush and then really just kind of pull that color down. And then I like to take like a baby pink and an orange, kind of feather them into the bronzer color a little bit, and pick up my translucent powder again and do this kind of imaginary line that will later be brushed away. Now I'm going to contour the nose, and I like to use, actually it's a paintbrush to be honest with you, but it's very flat. It's not synthetic hair, it's real hair. And using the same contour type color, I go in from that same line that I created earlier, all the way down the nose and into the corner of the eye here where the brow area was. And then I take my bright white shadow with this little painter's sponge thing, literally bright white, right down the center of the nose. And again, just gonna let it sit there and kind of milk for just a little bit. And then I like to take a large brush. It's actually very flat here for my blush. And I like to use like a bright kind of a color. And you just want to pat it in the apple of the cheek. You don't have to scrub that color on and like get crazy with it. I see a lot of queens and they're just like, you know, from frickin' one end of their face to the other with the blush, which, I mean, it's fine, but sometimes it can just be a lot. Okay, so we have finished the foundation, the powder, and the contour, and now we're gonna move on to the eyes. I love to do a smoky eye. I think because having light eyes, I like to have a lot of dark color on my eyes, be it blacks, burgundies, purples, fuchsias, whatever the colors are. And so on the Medusa episode, I happen to do a smoky eye. I like to take a brush that obviously has been completely mutilated at this point, but it's real fiber, and it, I think it's squirrel hair or something like that, I don't know. But it's really flat, and so I like to go with a very deep burgundy tone to begin with. And basically what I do is I just take and I start literally just kind of smudging it all over the actual lid of the eye, up into the crease just a little bit. So this is this deep burgundy tone all over the lid, kind of smudge up into the crease. Doing a smoky eye also doesn't necessarily mean it has to be like black or brown or gray or whatever. Smoky eye basically just means that you're using a color all over the lid up, you know, into the crease area of the eye. I think a lot of times people get confused by when they hear smoky eye and they assume, well, that means it has to be black. And it doesn't. So now that I've got the burgundy all over, I'm gonna use this kind of an orangey rust color, and that becomes kind of my blending color. So I smudge it in with the purple, the burgundy purple, and I pull that color up even further. And then taking and sweeping out towards the hairline. So yeah, this orangey color just helps to blend the burgundies. And again, as you can see, I'm taking and I'm pushing that color out, keeping it darker towards the most innermost parts of the eye through here. And then I want to take and pull my black in the corners so that I can really intensify the cornermost part of the eye. And literally I just take and I start patting this color, this black, in the cornermost part of the eye area here. So if you're going to use multiple colors, make sure that when you're applying them and you're putting them on, there's kind of a rhyme and a reason where you're putting it. There's no, science to makeup in the aspect of what's right and what's wrong. I think it's all on a personal and individual level as far as what works for you. Now I'm going to put my eyeliner on, and I like to use like a cream or a cake eyeliner on the uppermost part of the eye and a pencil on the bottom. I want to go in with my cake liner with a fairly small brush. It almost looks like a lip brush actually. And I use water. So I'm gonna start from the innermost part of the eye, pulling that black all the way. And I don't even use my actual lash line as a guide. I bring it up significantly farther. And then I always bring it in the cornermost part of my eye here as well. And then you connect it at the bottom part of the eye. Okay, so now that I got the cake eyeliner on the top, I'm gonna use like the blackest black pencil on the whole waterline of the bottom part of the eye. And literally, you have to like open your mouth when you do this and look a fool. It's crazy because nobody ever like really taught me how to do makeup. I think I've always just kind of been an artist. And I remember when I got in makeup for the very first time, I was 15 years old. It was for Halloween. And, using my mom's makeup and her sponge tip applicators, it was so bad. You really, really get a lot of that black around there. And especially for someone who has light eyes like myself, the more black that you put around your eyes, the more intensified they become. Now I'm gonna go back with this really tiny little brush with that same burgundy I used on my lid, and I actually smudge it right into that black. And now I pick up a smaller little angle brush with that rusty orange color, and I'm gonna smudge it as well into the bottom of the eye. You have to be careful depending upon the shape of the eye that you have, because sometimes for certain people who have like a deep set eye, if you apply too much deep color in the innermost part of the eye and through here, it can actually make your eyes look even further set back. For me, because I have a lot of space there and I don't have a deep set crease, I can tend to put a little bit more color there. Now we're gonna do the eyebrows, and I love a bitchy brow. I like a vintage looking bitchy brow. And so I like to use, again, another paintbrush. It's this very, very small, like angled brush. I don't know what it would be used for in painting, but I really like it. And I use a mixture of my spit and water, and I use eyeshadow again, and I use like brown, burgundy, kind of a black mixture with it. The shape of your brow is really dependent on what you like, how high, how low, how thick. This is just the undermost part of the line to start with. So before I finish the rest of the brow, I'm gonna take and apply a little color underneath the brow. You can use like a white or a nude. Now I'm gonna fill in the top part of the eyebrow. And then kind of picking up a little bit of brown in there as well. So we pretty much have the eyes, the brows done. All that's left now is to put on the lashes. So what I always like to do is I like to curl my lashes first and put mascara on my own lashes. Okay, so I've taken my lashes and I've put the lash glue on, and as the lash glue is on, I blow on the lash and I round it out. I always start with the outside of the eye and work in towards the cornermost part. And again, I'm not even putting them on my actual lash line, but kind of just like in between the liner. And then I will go back with my cake liner that I used on the top part of the eye. And I'm just gonna put a little bit more of that black liner on the top to get rid of the look of the glue line and to make sure that there's no powder at all. Bam, eyes are done. Now we're gonna move on to the lips. For me, I always like a bright color, like a reddish or a magenta. Nude colors just, they don't look right on me. They look amazing on a lot of queens, they don't look right on me. But I have a small lip, sadly. So my goal always is to make the lip look as full as I can without it looking ridiculous. I actually like to create a half circle, and I overdraw the bottom as well. So then I take with the pencil and I like to feather the color in. I don't color in the whole lip, but I feather it in to soften the line. And then what I do is I actually go back with another angle brush, kind of like the brow brush basically, and I wet my burgundy eyeshadow. And I go over that lip line again. Now I actually take my eyeshadow, that rust color, I go right over it. I don't own a tube of lipstick. I use all eyeshadows. And I'm gonna put a lip stain over this, and the lip is done. And now all I have left to do is to dust off the rest of the powder, maybe put a little more contour, a little more blush back on. So guys, this was the season 1 Medusa look runway. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and you can take some of that knowledge home and apply it to your own face.
Hey, squirrel friend. When one video ends, just open up another one. It's called binge viewing. Go ahead. I support you.